Hollywood, the land of glitz, glamour, and now, total chaos. Once the beating heart of entertainment, the industry is crumbling under its own weight. Studios are collapsing, streaming empires are hemorrhaging money, and the stars who once ruled the screen are now trapped in a whirlwind of scandals, corporate battles, and public betrayals. But among all the behind-the-scenes mayhem, one feud stands out: the explosive clash between Robert De Niro and Warner Brothers. And just when you thought it couldn't get any messier, Bill Maher threw himself into the fire, calling out De Niro and escalating the tension to an all-time high.
So why is Trump winning? I mean, the New York Times poll this week came out, and maybe this will change it with the State of the Union address, but Trump was beating him rather soundly. It was quite a warning light, 48-43, also winning way more among women than he had before, winning outright Latinos. What do you attribute that to?
I don't know. I just don't want to feel the way I did, and many of us don't, after the election in 2016, where we couldn't believe that it happened. The guy is a total monster, and anybody, I don't understand it. I guess they get behind that kind of logic. They want to fuck with people, screw them, because they're unhappy about something. He's such a mean, nasty, hateful person. I never play him as an actor, because I can't see any good in him. Nothing.
If you're just tuning in, buckle up, because this Hollywood fallout is nothing short of explosive. Robert De Niro, a living legend with unforgettable performances in The Godfather Part 2, Raging Bull, and Goodfellas, was set to pocket a staggering $40 million for two major Warner Brothers films. Both projects were tailor-made for him, bringing him back to his iconic mob boss roots. But in a stunning turn of events, Warner Brothers abruptly dropped him, launching a high-stakes battle that's now playing out in court. What seemed like a routine casting decision quickly spiraled into a full-blown controversy. Warner Brothers had banked on De Niro's commanding screen presence to drive these films to success. His massive payout reflected his status as one of Hollywood's most bankable stars. But just as the projects were gaining momentum, everything came crashing down. The studio shocked the industry by cutting all ties with De Niro, leaving him sidelined and furious. Then the real bombshell dropped. De Niro claimed he wasn't let go over contracts or creative differences. He was fired for his political views. According to him, Warner Brothers bowed to outside pressure from powerful figures who wanted him silenced. It's no secret that De Niro has never held back when it comes to his political beliefs. His fiery opinions have earned him both admiration and intense criticism. But now, he insists that speaking his mind has cost him two blockbuster roles. Warner Brothers, however, tells a very different story, one that raises even bigger questions. Insiders at the studio deny this was about politics alone. Instead, they claim De Niro crossed a line, making incendiary comments that stirred massive public backlash. To protect their brand, they made the call to drop him before the controversy got even worse. So who's telling the truth? Was De Niro blacklisted for his politics? Or did Warner Brothers make a tough business decision to avoid a PR disaster? One thing's for sure, this fight is far from over. Robert De Niro has never been one to hold his tongue. For decades, his outspoken views on politics and society have made him a lightning rod for both praise and controversy. But now, the legendary actor is facing a battle unlike anything he's seen before, one that threatens not just his career, but his entire legacy. He insists that speaking his mind has cost him two massive roles, but Warner Brothers is telling a very different and far more explosive story. Insiders at the studio claim this wasn't about De Niro's politics, but how he expressed them. According to sources, the actor's recent string of inflammatory remarks ignited public backlash, putting Warner Brothers in an impossible position. The fallout reportedly reached the highest levels of the company, with CEO David Zaslav personally stepping in to address the crisis. The message was clear. De Niro had become a liability, and drastic action was needed. But there was another factor at play: money. De Niro allegedly demanded a staggering $60 million payday for the two films, along with higher residuals at a time when Warner Brothers was already struggling with budget constraints. With financial tensions mounting and the controversy surrounding De Niro intensifying, the studio made the shocking decision to cut ties completely. What should have been a routine casting adjustment quickly spiraled into an all-out war. De Niro, refusing to fade quietly into the background, is now gearing up for a high-stakes legal battle. He's suing Warner Brothers and CEO David Zaslav, claiming that his firing was a politically motivated takedown orchestrated by powerful forces who wanted him silenced. The lawsuit alleges that the studio caved to pressure from outside groups, deliberately derailing his career and robbing him of the $40 million he was set to earn. But here's where things get even more complicated. Many legal experts aren't convinced he has a strong case. Some believe the lawsuit is more about controlling the public narrative than actually winning in court. Meanwhile, Warner Brothers isn't backing down, firmly stating that their decision was about professionalism, not politics. According to them, De Niro's actions created unnecessary risks, and they acted in the best interest of the company. And if a courtroom battle wasn't enough, De Niro is taking his fight to the court of public opinion. He's launching a full-scale media blitz, lining up appearances on talk shows, podcasts, and radio programs, including The Howard Stern Show, where he's expected to unleash fiery rants and impassioned defenses of his position. His mission? To convince the world that Hollywood is silencing him and that this isn't just about him, but about free speech in the industry. While De Niro wages his war, Warner Brothers is left scrambling to contain the fallout. The two mob boss films he was set to star in are now on the verge of collapse. One is facing deep budget cuts, while the other might not happen at all. Finding a replacement for a screen icon like De Niro is proving to be a nightmare, and the studio is under intense pressure to salvage its investment. But De Niro isn't just fighting a studio, he's battling a shifting Hollywood landscape. The entertainment industry is undergoing a massive transformation where streaming platforms, public scrutiny, and corporate risk management have made even A-list actors vulnerable. In a world where controversy can tank a project overnight, even legends like De Niro are finding themselves walking a razor's edge. Behind the scenes, the industry is taking notes. If Warner Brothers succeeds in sidelining one of the most respected actors of his generation, it could set a dangerous precedent for how studios handle outspoken stars in the future. On the other hand, if De Niro manages to turn public opinion in his favor, it could shake up Hollywood's power structure in ways we haven't seen before. One thing is certain, this battle is just getting started. With egos, reputations, and millions of dollars at stake, the next chapter promises to be even more chaotic, unpredictable, and headline-grabbing than anything Hollywood could script.
I don't understand how you say you love your country at the same time as you normalize this convicted felon, which I can...
It's wild how The View went from championing unity and inclusion to taking shots at Carrie Underwood, one of the most respected and talented voices in country music, just because she agreed to perform at the president's inauguration. You'd think someone like Carrie, who's practically America's country music sweetheart, would be applauded for wanting to take part in a historic national event. But instead, the moment she accepted the gig, the backlash exploded. Critics came out in full force, demanding her cancellation and accusing her of supporting a so-called convicted felon. Seriously, people actually ran with that narrative. But how did things escalate so quickly? And why does it feel like Carrie's the only one rising above the noise? Before the drama took over, she was universally adored, a small-town girl with a voice that stole the show on a major singing competition. Let's break down how this all spiraled and why Carrie might just walk away from it all with her head held high.
Country superstar Carrie Underwood has spent most of her career avoiding political talk, but she's set to perform at the upcoming inauguration. She said in a statement that she's doing it because the country must come together in the spirit of unity and look to the future. And lots of her fans aren't thrilled about it, but lots of her fans are. So let's put this in perspective here. What do y'all think?
I personally hope we're moving beyond the era of politics where we want to cancel people's livelihoods because we don't like their politics. And whether it was the Dixie Chicks for criticizing George Bush, didn't agree with it then, and Carrie Underwood, if you have a problem, you register your complaint by not downloading her songs and not going to her shows.
Right.
But I also think from a business standpoint, it's not a bad decision for Carrie Underwood. 75 million people voted for Trump. Artists tend to skew left-leaning, so she's overnight going to become an icon of MAGA and the American right. She's probably going to make a lot of money off of it. So I get why she did it.
I see.
From the very beginning, Carrie Underwood played it smart. No scandals, no controversies, just pure talent. You never saw her splashed across tabloids for messy drama or desperate publicity stunts. She didn't need to stir up feuds or pull off wild antics to stay relevant. People loved her simply for being authentic, graceful, and incredibly gifted. With millions of records sold, a shelf full of awards, and a devoted fan base, she managed to stay above the chaos, steering clear of the messy world of political debates. Then came the invitation to perform at the inauguration. It should have been a moment of pride, an opportunity to stand on a national stage, sing a song that brings people together, and celebrate the idea that at the end of the day, we're all under the same flag. So why the outrage? Carrie accepted the offer with gratitude and a voice powerful enough to inspire millions. What's so wrong with that? To her critics, accepting the invitation was all it took to brand Carrie Underwood as a full-blown MAGA supporter, and they wasted no time calling for her to be canceled, boycotted, and blacklisted. Whatever it would take to knock her down. Sure, some loyal fans jumped to her defense online, but a fresh wave of detractors seemed determined to take her down. And for what? Singing America the Beautiful on a national stage? Seriously, let's rewind to the moment Carrie said yes. She got the official invite to perform at the inauguration, a huge honor by any standard. Instead of dodging the opportunity, she proudly shared her excitement about celebrating the country she loves. Her statement? A simple message about unity and looking toward the future. Hardly controversial, right? Well, you'd think so.
Right now, I wouldn't do it, even though I can't sing.
You would not sing?
No, I would not. I would not normalize him. And she says, I love our country. How do you love your country and support and normalize somebody who was a convicted felon who really wants to destroy the country, in my opinion? I don't understand how you say you love your country at the same time as you normalize this convicted felon, which I can say now every day.
A lot of my family voted for Trump. They love the country and vote for him. I think that people make these decisions for a lot of reasons.
Okay, fine. And I would not be the person to say don't do it, because I believe in free speech and everything about it. I personally would not do it. No one's asked me, but that's another story.
I would love for you to do a roast at the Trump inauguration.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, no one else had any thought?
There we are.
Before long, social media erupted with outrage as critics slammed Carrie for supposedly normalizing someone they couldn't stand. Angry posts flooded in, with some demanding refunds for concert tickets and others dramatically vowing to boycott her music for good. The backlash was swift and loud, but it wasn't the only reaction. While critics were busy trying to tear her down, a whole new audience started paying attention. To them, Carrie wasn't just a singer anymore. She was someone with real grit. Someone who refused to cave under pressure. Supporters praised her for having the confidence to take the stage at an event that many celebrities wanted nothing to do with. Instead of hiding or backing down, she stood firm, and for that, she earned a fresh wave of respect. So, while one side of the internet was up in arms over her decision, another group was cheering her on, seeing her as a voice of strength in a sea of celebrity silence. Almost overnight, Carrie Underwood's name was everywhere. If anyone needed proof that her critics weren't exactly the champions of tolerance they claimed to be, this was it. Social media exploded with insults and accusations, treating Carrie like she'd committed some kind of unforgivable offense. Don't believe it? Just scroll through the countless posts labeling her a traitor, a sellout, and a puppet for the establishment, all because she chose to perform at a national event. You'd think she had done something outrageous, rather than simply celebrating a historic moment. And of course, The View wasted no time jumping into the fray. Some of the hosts, known for their sharp criticism of anyone who doesn't align with their views, eagerly joined the pile-on, scolding Carrie as if she had betrayed them personally. But here's the part they're not talking about. Carrie isn't alone in her beliefs. Enter John Rich. The country star took to social media to back Carrie up, calling out his fellow artists for their silence. He didn't hold back, essentially saying, if you really care about this country, why are you letting Carrie take all the heat? Step up and speak out. His message struck a chord, making it clear that Carrie wasn't the only one willing to stand by her convictions. While some in the music industry chose to stay silent, worried about losing lucrative endorsements or upsetting politically charged record labels, Carrie Underwood didn't play it safe. She stood front and center, proudly expressing her love for the USA. And that's when The View swooped in to stir the pot. One of the hosts went as far as claiming that performing at the inauguration was like normalizing a convicted felon. But hold on, last time we checked, no one's serving time. So where's the felony conviction? When did that sentencing happen? Because all we're seeing is a lot of noise over legal drama that hasn't led to a single day behind bars. Then came the classic emotional finger pointing. The same host questioned how anyone could claim to love their country while standing beside someone they believe is tearing it down. It's the usual black and white thinking, ignoring the possibility that maybe Carrie simply wanted to honor her country, no matter who was in office. Another co-host chimed in, making it clear that she wouldn't perform for this administration, which is fair, it's her choice. But shaming an artist for making a different decision, that's the exact opposite of what free expression is supposed to be about. A few panelists tried to strike a more reasonable tone, pointing out that it's unfair to destroy someone's career over political disagreements. But as always, the loudest voices drowned out any sense of balance, piling on accusations without a shred of real evidence. Their hot take? If fans are upset, they can just stop listening to her music. Because of course, these TV personalities see themselves as the ultimate judges of who should or shouldn't have a career. But did Carrie's decision actually hurt her in the long run? Not even close. She's still winning awards, selling out concerts, and making serious money. The outrage faded as soon as the internet found its next target, but that doesn't erase the way she was dragged through the mud at the time. And if you need proof that it didn't break her, just look at her chart-topping albums and packed venues. The record labels never really turned their backs on her, probably because they know she's a powerhouse who keeps the cash flowing. The fans who chose to walk away in anger have been replaced by a new group of supporters who appreciate Carrie's unapologetic stance. What truly makes her story unique, however, is how it brings attention to the contradictory nature of cancel culture. This isn't just about one person being targeted, it's about how cancel culture often shows itself to be full of hypocrisy. Let's unravel what could easily be Hollywood's most explosive fiasco of 2024. George Clooney, Hollywood's golden boy known for his charisma, sophistication, and status as cinematic royalty, is now caught in the middle of a career meltdown so over the top, it feels ripped straight from one of his own disaster movies. At the core of this mess is a feud so fiery, so public, and so wildly entertaining, it's grabbed the attention of both the industry elite and everyday viewers alike. And the unexpected co-star in this unscripted drama, Bill Maher, the unfiltered host of Real Time, wielding his signature wit like a weapon. But before we unpack this whirlwind of betrayal and scandal, a quick shout out for tuning in, because trust me, this is one wild ride you won't want to miss. Clooney's troubles began with what was supposed to be a straightforward political ad, a nod to his activism, and a move to keep him relevant in today's shifting cultural tides. Instead, the ad was a disaster. It wasn't just criticized, it was utterly shredded. Don't believe me? Let me show you the infamous clip. Buckle up, it's about to get interesting.
Come on, boys, let's make America great again. It's your turn, buddy.
Before you cast your vote in this election, think about how it'll impact the people you care about the most.
Daddy!
Remember, you can vote any way you want, and no one will ever know.
Do your patriotic duty.
You bet I did, brother.
What happens in the booth stays in the booth. Vote Harris Walls.
Paid for by Vote Common Good.
Critics wasted no time tearing into Clooney, branding him as tone-deaf, insincere, and, above all, guilty of blatant pandering. A slip-up is one thing, but this misstep felt like a complete free fall down the stairs of public opinion. While Clooney has survived controversies before, the Hollywood landscape has shifted. It's less forgiving now, and backlash spreads like wildfire. For a star with a carefully crafted image to maintain, this wasn't just bad press, it was a full-blown crisis. Determined to take back control of the narrative, Clooney launched a full-scale media offensive to repair his image and win back public support. But this wasn't just your run-of-the-mill PR push, it was a high-stakes, all-or-nothing campaign. At the center of it was a bold strategy, an appearance on Real Time with Bill Maher. The plan was simple. Clooney would walk onto Maher's stage, charm the audience, offer a heartfelt apology, and sprinkle in some exclusive political insights to remind everyone why he was once so admired. However, Bill Maher wasn't exactly rolling out the red carpet. When Clooney's team pitched the idea to Maher's producers, emphasizing how his appearance would draw massive viewership and create a media frenzy, Maher reportedly shot it down without hesitation. "This isn't a platform for celebrity image rehab," he allegedly said, making it clear he wasn't interested in being part of a shallow publicity stunt. Refusing to give up, Clooney's team came back with a revamped pitch, doubling down on the exclusivity and drama of the appearance. This time, they promised headline-grabbing revelations, direct clapbacks to his critics, and a spectacle guaranteed to dominate the media cycle for weeks. Their aim? To turn this interview into the must-see event that would catapult Clooney back into the spotlight and restore his image. The stakes couldn't have been higher, but Maher, as always, wasn't one to play by Hollywood's rules. Maher remained steadfast in his refusal, reportedly telling HBO executives that bringing Clooney on the show would alienate his core audience. His viewers tuned in for sharp, no-nonsense political analysis, not a celebrity's attempt at damage control. Maher was convinced that his audience valued substance over spectacle, particularly in a media landscape already saturated with fluff. At the heart of Maher's stance was a growing disillusionment with the role of celebrities in politics and public discourse. While figures like Clooney once wielded significant influence, Maher seemed to believe that the cultural tide had shifted. Star power alone wasn't enough to carry a meaningful narrative anymore. In his view, public trust demanded authenticity and depth, qualities he didn't see in Clooney's push for a televised comeback. Turning real time into a stage for a celebrity redemption story didn't align with Maher's vision for the show, and he wasn't about to compromise its integrity for a PR stunt. Despite the repeated rejections, Clooney's team didn't give up. In a last-ditch effort, they pitched an idea for a live Q&A session where Clooney would field unscripted questions from the audience to showcase his sincerity and directly address his critics. Once again, Maher declined, remaining unconvinced. Here's where the story takes a personal twist. After the third rejection, Clooney himself decided to intervene, reaching out to Maher directly. He proposed an unscripted, candid conversation, hoping to appeal to Maher's belief in open dialogue. But Maher wasn't budging. According to sources, he bluntly told Clooney that his show wasn't a platform for celebrity redemption arcs. For Maher, it wasn't just about protecting his ratings, it was about maintaining the show's credibility. This final rejection wasn't just a professional setback for Clooney, it was a deeply personal blow. A Hollywood icon who had spent decades accustomed to doors opening effortlessly with his charm now faced a rare and public refusal. For someone like Clooney, who had long been a darling of both Hollywood and the public, this moment of rejection was an uncharted and humbling experience, one that served as a stark reminder that even stars aren't immune to the shifting tides of public opinion. Behind the scenes, the feud between George Clooney and Bill Maher was intensifying. Maher, never one to mince words, reportedly mocked Clooney's persistent attempts to appear on Real Time during private conversations. According to insiders, Maher allegedly described Clooney's behavior as desperate, likening his repeated pitches to auditioning for a pity party. Though these remarks weren't made publicly, word quickly got back to Clooney, leaving him seething with anger. Maher didn't stop there. During one of his monologues, he took thinly veiled shots at Hollywood elites, ridiculing actors who clung to their fame by pushing political agendas rather than relying on their actual body of work. While he didn't name Clooney outright, the implications were clear to anyone paying attention to the drama. Clooney, however, wasn't about to let Maher have the last word. Frustrated and eager to shift the narrative, his team began pitching him to other platforms, including The Howard Stern Show. But even Stern, known for his unfiltered and edgy interviews, appeared hesitant. Reports suggested that Stern's team was cautious about associating with Clooney, given the actor's spiraling public image and the growing backlash surrounding him. As rejection after rejection piled up, Clooney's frustration reportedly boiled over. Behind the scenes, insiders described him as being in meltdown mode, venting his anger not just at Maher, but at the broader Hollywood ecosystem. Once known for his charm and composed demeanor, Clooney's erratic behavior was both surprising and unsettling to those around him. Meanwhile, Maher remained unshaken. Although he never directly mentioned Clooney by name, his pointed comments about celebrity culture and political posturing left little doubt about the target of his criticism. For Maher, this wasn't just a professional standoff, it was a principled stand. By refusing to entertain Clooney's PR campaign, Maher reinforced his commitment to authenticity and refused to let his show become a platform for shallow celebrity theatrics. What started as a simple disagreement has now morphed into one of Hollywood's most talked about scandals of the year. The clash between Clooney and Maher isn't just about an actor trying to salvage his reputation or a talk show host maintaining his integrity. It reflects a broader cultural shift where the public and even the entertainment industry seems increasingly unwilling to give celebrities a free pass. In a world shaped by social media and instant backlash,
Austin's obsession with race gets thrown back in her face. Today's video comes to us from sunny Austin. Sounds like a town. We're in sunny Austin.
Wow. I'm a little bit in shock. I just always thought of myself as Puerto Rican, half Puerto Rican. I didn't think I was, my family was originally from Spain and slaveholders.
Sunny Hostin recently found herself in the spotlight, but not for the usual reasons. Known for her strong opinions on racial justice, reparations, and systemic oppression, she's built her career on standing up for what she believes is right. But her appearance on PBS's Finding Your Roots took an unexpected turn, shaking up that image. In a surprising twist, Sunny learned that her ancestors weren't victims of oppression, they were actually slave owners. That's right, a vocal advocate for reparations discovered that her own family had directly benefited from the very system she has long condemned. Her reaction? A mix of shock, hesitation, and an awkward attempt to brush it off as just part of history. Greg Gutfeld didn't let this slide. With his signature sharp humor, he pointed out what he saw as clear hypocrisy. His take struck a nerve, igniting discussions everywhere. Should this revelation change how people view Sunny's activism? And when someone speaks about accountability, does their own personal history matter? Let's take a closer look at this explosive moment. Sunny Hostin, a well-known co-host on The View, has built her reputation on being outspoken about racial justice and identity politics. But now, people are questioning whether her message still holds the same weight in light of this discovery.
It was on PBS's Finding Your Roots, a show dedicated to researching celebrity ancestry. For context, Sunny is a staunch supporter of reparations and has made a fortune spewing nonsense about white privilege and racial justice. Well, turns out she's not as oppressed as she claims she is. She's actually the descendant of slave owners from Europe.
Sunny Hostin often presents herself as a strong model voice, passionately speaking on issues like reparations and systemic oppression. She doesn't hold back when criticizing white privilege and is a firm believer in holding people accountable for America's historical injustices. Her advocacy is centered around bringing awareness to equity and confronting uncomfortable truths about race and privilege. Over the years, she has become a prominent figure in the push for reparations and a fierce, unapologetic commentator on systemic racism. But her appearance on PBS's Finding Your Roots took an unexpected turn, one that neither she nor her audience saw coming. Viewers tuned in expecting a familiar narrative, an ancestral history of oppression that aligned with her strong stance on racial justice. Instead, what they got was a shocking revelation. Sunny's ancestors weren't victims of oppression. They were actually slave owners. Her reaction? Pure disbelief. She stumbled over her words, clearly caught off guard, and made an awkward attempt to downplay the revelation as just a fact of history.
How are you feeling, my friend?
I think it's actually pretty interesting that my husband and I have shared roots.
Yeah.
So I do appreciate that. And I think it's great for our children to know this information. I guess it's a fact of life that this is how some people made their living, on the backs of others.
Sunny was visibly shaken, struggling to process what she had just learned. After a pause, she hesitantly admitted, "I just always thought of myself as Puerto Rican. I never imagined my family were slaveholders." The silence that followed was thick with irony. It didn't take long for the internet to explode. Social media was flooded with memes mocking the moment, including one that read, "Reparations? Let me write that check to myself real quick." While some fans defended her, many couldn't ignore the glaring contradiction between her personal history and the views she so passionately promotes. The revelation reignited discussions about accountability and whether personal history should factor into activism. Sunny, who is usually the one calling out others, now found herself on the receiving end of criticism. Greg Gutfeld didn't waste any time delivering a sharp, humorous take, on the situation. His most cutting remark? Sonny's ancestors were slave owners. That's like finding out a vegan secretly owns a barbecue joint.
On, new episodes of The View when she tries to pull the race card.
Yes.
And then she's like, America is racist. And then they're like, yeah, they might be racist, but they're not like slave owner racist. like somebody that we...
That's so true.
Yeah.
One thing, and I would have even actually not give her any, is she said, well, I guess that's just what they did back then.
Yeah.
She should have followed that up with saying something along the lines of, and I understand that that's a departure from the way I've talked about this before.
The punchline landed perfectly, and the audience burst into laughter. But Gutfeld didn't just stop at making jokes. He used the moment to call out what he saw as blatant hypocrisy. For years, Sonny has been outspoken about holding others accountable for their ancestry, often framing her arguments around systemic oppression and historical responsibility. Yet, when confronted with her own family's troubling past, she seemed to shrug it off, calling it just a fact of life. Gutfeld didn't let that slide. He pointed out how moments like these reveal the risks of identity politics, when the story someone pushes doesn't quite match the reality. He argued that Sonny's moral high ground had taken a serious hit, and stressed the importance of self-awareness and nuance when discussing complicated topics like race and history.
It is funny. She's so wrapped up in identity and she had no idea who she was.
Well, now we understand why she always makes Whoopi get the coffee.
Exactly, because if she is shaming descendants of this, will she continue to do that when she is now one of them?
Gutfeld explained that reducing complex issues to identity-based narratives can sometimes lead activists like Sonny to overlook important context, including their own contradictions. The real irony, he pointed out, wasn't just that Sonny's ancestors were involved in a system she passionately opposes, but that she avoided taking the moment to reflect on it. Instead, she quickly brushed past it, downplaying its significance. His commentary struck a chord with many who saw this as a prime example of what happens when moral superiority runs up against uncomfortable truths. To Gutfeld, this wasn't just about Sonny. It was a bigger lesson on how personal accountability often takes a back seat to performative outrage. After Sonny's shocking family history came to light, the internet wasted no time reacting. Social media exploded with memes and jokes, including one particularly viral caption, "Reparations? Let me write that check to myself real quick." Platforms like Twitter and TikTok were flooded with a mix of sharp humor and strong opinions, making the moment impossible to ignore.
In her defense, everyone has ancestors that did unspeakably horrible things. It's just that not everyone's ancestors have records tied to their DNA about it. Worried for Sonny Hostin's progeny in the future that do a DNA test and find out that they were related to a cast member of The View. And they're like, oh, it all makes so much sense now why I'm so stupid and fat.
Some people defended Sonny, saying she shouldn't be blamed for what her ancestors did, but many others couldn't ignore the obvious contradiction. Sonny, who has built her platform on holding others accountable for their history, seemed to brush off her own with nothing more than a casual shrug, calling it just a fact of life. This sparked a heated debate. Should public figures like Sonny be held to the same moral standards they demand from others? Critics argued that her response lacked the reflection and growth expected from someone so outspoken about accountability. The irony of the situation made sure the backlash didn't fade quickly, keeping the conversation going for weeks. The fallout from Sonny's revelation didn't just stir up controversy, it also made things awkward on The View. When the bombshell dropped about her ancestors being slave owners, the usual lively energy at the table disappeared into an uncomfortable silence. Even Whoopi Goldberg, known for her quick comebacks, hesitated, seemingly unsure how to handle such an ironic twist. Meanwhile, over on Greg Gutfeld's panel, the reaction was the complete opposite. His co-hosts didn't hold back, throwing in sharp but playful jabs. One even joked that Sonny might have to start shaming herself for her family's past. The panel's laughter drove home their criticism of what they saw as her double standards, further exposing the cracks in her moral high ground. Rosie O'Donnell also weighed in, offering a more thoughtful perspective on the situation.
Yes, there's nothing worse than to find out you're a white woman.
She's so disappointed.
It's really disappointing.
Her mother was white.
Oh my God.
Shame.
Oh my God.
The horror.
History and finds out that this is fantastic. She is descended from slaveholders. She's descended from slaveholders, and she's been apparently getting a lot of mail about her call for reparations because it turns out she's going to be paying them and not actually receiving them.
Rosie O'Donnell emphasized that people should be judged by their actions, not their ancestry, while also pointing out how identity politics can sometimes oversimplify complex issues like race and history. Her perspective highlighted how discoveries like these can challenge rigid narratives and force uncomfortable self-reflection. The reactions from both Sonny's supporters and critics revealed a clear divide. Some saw this as an opportunity to discuss personal accountability, while others viewed it as yet another example of identity politics backfiring in a big way. No matter where people stood, the tension surrounding Sonny's response was impossible to ignore. Her reaction to her family's shocking past felt like a missed opportunity. Instead of using the moment to reflect or start a meaningful conversation about the complexities of ancestry and accountability, she brushed it off as just a fact of life. For someone who has built a career on holding others to high moral standards, this casual dismissal left many feeling unsatisfied. This could have been a moment of growth. Sonny had the chance to acknowledge the irony, share her personal struggle with reconciling her family's past, and use the revelation to deepen discussions about historical injustices. It could have served as a powerful reminder that no one's history is simple or without contradictions, but instead, the focus shifted to her perceived hypocrisy and unwillingness to confront her own past, turning what could have been a meaningful dialogue into yet another debate over accountability. Sonny's story is a clear example that no one's history is without complexity, and that moral certainty can quickly unravel when inconvenient truths come to light. Her situation raises an important question. If you demand accountability from others, shouldn't you be willing to hold yourself to the same standard? With the internet's reaction, viral memes, and Greg Gutfeld's sharp commentary, step into Hollywood, where the drama spills off the screen and into the real world. The glossy image of the entertainment industry is starting to crack, revealing a whole new layer of chaos. Once the epicenter of creativity and endless entertainment, it now feels stuck in a constant whirlwind of trouble. With studios collapsing, streaming platforms hemorrhaging money, and creators caught in the middle, things have never been more turbulent. But no story stands out quite like the explosive showdown between Robert De Niro and Warner Brothers. And just when you thought it couldn't get any crazier, Bill Maher enters the fray, publicly calling out De Niro and stoking the flames of their already heated feud.
So why is Trump winning? I mean, the New York Times poll this week came out, and maybe this will change it with the State of the Union address, but Trump was beating him rather soundly. It was quite a warning light, 48 to 43, also winning way more among women than he had before, winning outright Latinos. What do you attribute that to?
I don't know. I just don't want to feel the way I did, and many of us don't, after the election in 2016, where we couldn't believe that it happened. The guy is a total monster. And anybody, I don't understand it. I guess they get behind that kind of logic. They want to fuck with people, screw them, because they're unhappy about something. He's such a mean, nasty, hateful person. I never play him as an actor because I can't see any good in him. Nothing.
For those just tuning in, Robert De Niro, the iconic actor behind unforgettable roles in classics like The Godfather Part 2, Raging Bull, and Goodfellas, has recently been dropped from 2 major Warner Brothers projects. These films were set to showcase De Niro in his legendary mob boss role, something he's mastered over decades. Together, the projects were worth a staggering $40 million. But instead of bringing those characters to life, De Niro is now locked in a legal battle, accusing Warner Brothers of firing him unfairly due to his political views. At first, this looked like a typical Hollywood situation. Warner Brothers had cast De Niro for 2 roles tailor-made for his intense, commanding screen presence. With both films expected to draw large audiences, the studio was counting on De Niro's star power to deliver. His $40 million payday was a testament to his status as one of Hollywood's top-paid actors. But as with many Hollywood dramas, things took an unexpected turn. Out of nowhere, Warner Brothers announced they were cutting ties with De Niro, scrapping him from both films. For an actor of his caliber, this was a major shakeup. Naturally, rumors began to fly. Was it a contract dispute? Creative differences? The truth was far messier. De Niro quickly fired back, claiming he was axed for political reasons, accusing Warner Brothers of bowing to pressure from public figures and groups who opposed his outspoken views. De Niro has always been known for speaking his mind, and his bold political and social opinions have sparked both praise and controversy. Now, he's arguing that his willingness to voice his thoughts has cost him big roles. But Warner Brothers has a much different and far more contentious take on the situation. Insiders from the studio argue that De Niro's firing wasn't about his political stance, but how he expressed it. Sources say his controversial comments angered a large portion of the public, forcing Warner Brothers to make the tough decision to part ways with the actor to protect their brand. Robert De Niro is notorious for never holding back, and his bold views on political and social issues have sparked both admiration and controversy throughout his career. Now, he's claiming that speaking his mind has cost him major roles, but Warner Brothers is offering an even juicier explanation. Studio insiders say the decision to part ways with De Niro wasn't about his politics, but rather the way he voiced them. Allegedly, the actor made a series of inflammatory remarks that ruffled a lot of feathers and offended large swaths of the public. This reportedly triggered Warner Brothers executives, including CEO David Zaslav, to step in and take decisive action. Things didn't stop there. De Niro's financial demands only added fuel to the fire. Sources say he requested a whopping $60 million for the two films, plus higher residuals, all while the studio was already facing budget concerns. As tensions built, Warner Brothers made the call to sever ties, a move that quickly sparked a public frenzy. Refusing to go down without a fight, De Niro is now gearing up for a legal battle that could rival anything he's faced on screen. He's suing Warner Brothers and CEO David Zaslav, claiming they fired him for political reasons. In his lawsuit, De Niro accuses the studio of buckling under pressure from groups opposing his views and intentionally sabotaging his career by cutting him from the projects. He's demanding $40 million in damages, the same amount he was set to earn. Despite his claims, many legal experts and industry insiders think his case is shaky, suggesting it's more about saving face than securing a legal win. On the other hand, Warner Brothers is standing firm, insisting their decision was based on De Niro's controversial behavior and the professional risks it posed, not his political opinions. If the legal drama wasn't enough, De Niro is launching a full-blown PR campaign. He's lined up appearances on podcasts, radio shows, and talk shows, including The Howard Stern Show, to tell his side of the story. His mission? To cast himself as a victim of corporate censorship in an industry that he argues no longer tolerates differing opinions. Expect fiery speeches, pointed critiques, and emotional pleas as De Niro takes his fight into the public eye. Meanwhile, Warner Brothers is left dealing with the fallout. The two films De Niro was supposed to star in are now in serious jeopardy. One is facing massive budget cuts, and the other may be canceled entirely. Replacing an acting legend like De Niro is no easy task, and the studio is scrambling to save their investment. To add fuel to the fire, De Niro's former co-stars have been told by their agents and managers to steer clear of him, a classic Hollywood move when someone's reputation is in jeopardy. This isolation has only deepened De Niro's sense of betrayal and frustration. But De Niro's clash with Warner Brothers isn't just a personal spat. It's a reflection of the bigger issues shaking up Hollywood right now. The entertainment industry is in the midst of a massive upheaval, with streaming services upending traditional business models, public opinion gaining more power than ever, and studios walking a tightrope of potential controversy. Even A-listers like De Niro aren't immune to the fallout from their actions. For Warner Brothers, cutting ties with De Niro may have been a strategic move to protect against professional risks, but this decision also exposes the tricky balancing act studios face when trying to manage creative freedom, public perception, and financial pressures. Even competitors like Disney are feeling the heat, showing just how high the stakes are in the battle for dominance in the entertainment world. As for De Niro, his place in Hollywood is now up in the air. The legal showdown with Warner Brothers could drag on for months, possibly even years, and the damage to his public image may take even longer to repair. But if there's one thing De Niro is known for, it's his resilience. Whether he's playing a mob boss or taking on $1 billion studio, he's never been one to back down from a fight. One thing's for sure, this saga is far from over. The next chapter promises to be just as dramatic, messy, and captivating as the ones before it.